In Baltimore, Maryland, the officials have decided to make the tolls go cashless. They will be updating the Francis Scott Key and the Thomas J. Hayden Memorial Bridge. In October, you will have the decision to either go through the Easy Pass lane or use the video toll. The Maryland officials will view and take a picture of the license plate, and your payment will be sent in the mail. What do you think about the new cashless tolls? Leave your comment down below. This is Amani Jones, and this is the Morgan Minute.
Two teams of reporters, folks at a traditionally white university and a historically black university. 50 years after the momentous events that triggered the Voting Rights Act, to be here at this time, I think is important.
First project that we do with the two universities together, Selma was a really inspired choice in many ways. The town here has thrown open the doors for these kids. There's nobody who won't talk to them, who isn't like, come back tomorrow, come back at 3, we'll feed you. It's been really great.
You go out into a place like this and you just start a conversation. If you don't know what to say, just explain who you are. I like to tell people, you tell me what you want me to know.
Once they start doing that, that is an intoxicating event.
It was like my aha moment, like, I can do this, and it gives you that adrenaline rush to just keep going and going.
The collaboration is about teaching young journalists how to report on social justice issues, issues around race, issues around economic justice. Selma's an iconic place for that. And I think it's really important in this project that we have perspectives from different students as well. They're sort of thrown in the field together and I think have to negotiate that.
It's interesting to watch them really explore these racial issues.
I've never had a close white friend, so coming here was really my first encounter making friends with white people.
They're learning a lot from each other. They've really bonded.
We just were like, oh, okay, they must be with us. They have cameras, we have pens, let's make this work.
One of the things that I think is really important for our students is to have a lot of practical, kind of hands-on experiences that are meaningful to them.
It's almost like having like a mini internship.
You're put into a situation where you're looked at as a professional.
This is exactly what I envisioned, all the challenges and struggles and the little victories.
We have two completely different perspectives, and you're like, how is that gonna work? Are we gonna mesh? Are we gonna agree? Are we gonna get along? And I was surprised that we get along so well. You know, everyone's a character in their own right, which I like.
I feel like the change starts within. And if we each become more receptive to people who are different, the world will be a better place.
after that.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad!
Okay, here we go, throw it!
Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Journalist Caitlin Bennett was thrown out of Bernie Sanders' rally campaign in Lordstown, Ohio on April 14th. She chose to appear at the rally since it was publicized as an open occasion, just to discover that it was invitation only. After she sat in her seat, a security guard moved towards her and requested her to please leave. The guard avoided Bennett's questions on whether she was violating any rules, as he kept implying that it was a private event. Bennett recorded a video of the resulting discourse to Twitter. Bennett said that she was only expressing her First Amendment rights. Bennett was later escorted out. People claimed that her appearance was nothing but a PR stunt. Do you think that Bernie Sanders was wrong for having journalist Caitlin Bennett thrown out? Leave your likes and comments down below. I'm Ayana Simmons, and thank you for watching The Morgan Minute.
Hi, my name is Brianna Taylor, and I'm a strategic communications major at Morgan State University. I'm a staff writer for the MSU Spokesman, and tonight we are teaming up with BearTV to cover this event.
It's natural to be afraid at the edge of that plane, you know, but you just got to trust your equipment, trust your gear, trust your training, and take that leap despite your fear.
Tonight brings us to the Graves School of Business, where the Afros of MSU have partnered up with Beauty Boss to bring you a panel of all-female Black entrepreneurs talking about natural hair.
I learned more about how good it is to be unified as the Black community, Black businesses, how we need to stick together, just how we just benefit from it. And I got to, you know, check out more Black-owned businesses. Like, I kind of knew Luster's was like Black-owned, but it was like, that's confirmation. Like, it just seemed Black-owned. It was like, wow, like that's actually a company that's been here for generations, is helping us and, you know, helping the community.
So much to being an entrepreneur, and I take my hat off to them because it's truly a thing to do business with no excuses, and you need to adopt that now. In everything that you do it with a sense of excellence.
The event, A National Conversation, was really, really fun. It was really, really cool to see, to have Black women entrepreneurs come and talk to us about where they started, their journey, and how they got to where they are now. And I don't necessarily want to be an entrepreneur myself, but it was still nice and cool to hear their insight and just hearing them tell their story, especially in terms of Black hair care, because there's always been a need to have Black hair care products, especially as it pertains to Black women, especially I think given the emphasis that society places on our hair and like how our hair makes us feel. And so it was a really cool event, and I learned a lot.
Faith Sewell, a junior journalism major who helped organize the event in partnership with Afros of MSU, hope that this is an event that can continue for years to come.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Oyana Doyan, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, other schools, you can mess with us if you wanted to. We the Bears, we the largest squad, we the orange and blue. Hit the folks, then we mainly rock, then we drop on you. Get the win, then we leave the field like we wanted to. Hey, we the best now, we make winning moves. Say we the best now, we make winning moves. If you see us on the field, that means you are gonna lose. And we quick, so just take the step. Now we comfortable. Hey! Oh!
Get it there.
Hey!
Yeah. Pump it up, pump it up.
Hey!
What?
Morgan!
Hey!
If you ever end up in a situation like mine, make sure to contact the MSU Police Department at 410-396-2444. Be sure to look up and look out by paying attention to your surroundings at all times.
I mean, every parent isn't perfect. That's expected, but they really sacrifice a lot for me, and that's just from what I've seen. Who knows what I haven't seen what they sacrifice for, but I know because like my mom's a nurse, my dad works for DC government in the environmental department, so I know both really work hard. And if I'm stressed, I would think, oh, my dad would be stressed, but he would know how to manage it. Or my mom, like how say like if I have like a huge amount of work to do, and the thing is I don't have a drive, it's like, oh, my mom would find a way to do this. Like, God got me here, even though when I believed that I couldn't get myself, when I believed that I couldn't get myself to here in this moment in time, being a junior. But I know that like if he got me here, he'll send me farther beyond than I can see. There have been times that like I thought, like, am I really doing the right thing? Or I know that, oh yeah, God's always there, but like, I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, like when it comes to like what I want to do, but like, am I actually gonna see it? But I guess that's where faith comes in.
So everyone assumes like being the only child, I'm probably spoiled, but I'm definitely not. My mom does treat me a little older than I am, though, I can say that. So I have grown into an old soul, I would say. You know, and since I'm a single child, she's also a single parent, it's a lot more. So in a way, I'm also helping her, you know, achieve things or making sure she's okay. It's like I have to watch out for my mom's back. So I actually did grow up with my father. We just recently kind of had a outing. But I can say it was okay. I didn't really get the whole two-parent dream though, because I was sometimes with my mom, sometimes with my dad. So it was a lot of back and forth. That means it was 2 Christmases, 2 Thanksgiving, 2 birthdays. It was 2 of everything. At times though, there was like numerous birthday parties up until I was about 16 years old that he never was able to come to any of my birthday parties because he was over in Iraq or Afghanistan fighting for the country. And so it was like I grew up with my dad, but I didn't because I talked to him on the phone, but it wasn't the same as in being able to jump into his arms at the end of the day of school or anything like that. With my mom, she was also in school. She was in college herself when I was younger. So there was times I'd be sitting in the back of a college classroom eating popcorn, coloring. But with her showing me that, she just showed me that like I can still accomplish things. And that having a child or someone like that, or not being with the father of the child, it doesn't make a difference of how I can bring up the child.
I'm in love right now, actually. I like it a lot. I like that feeling every time I see her. It's like a flutter inside. It warms my heart, puts a smile on my face, and I usually don't smile, so it's something new for me. It's a mutual feeling. Because you can think you might love someone, but it's just like, oh, I enjoy this person's company, or you know, I like some things they do. We just have the same interests. But when it's mutual, like you can both feel it off each other, like the aura that you're in when you're around the person, like how you feel. I'll say that's when you know it's real love, when it's mutual. My mother, I don't know, just the way she treats me and like how she treats others, and especially like with my father. I see how happy they are and how they treat each other, like how they act around each other. It's like, I don't know, I just picked up off it.
My skateboard, to me, in one word, means freedom for me. And it's a way for me to define myself. because when I first started skateboarding, it was my best friend in high school. She put me onto it, and we would always go out and try to learn together. Neither one of us really knew how to, but we taught ourselves, and that was years ago. So today I still use it to get around campus, get where I need to go, and just sort of a way to commemorate her too, since she passed away. So I definitely keep to it now, since that she's not here with me to skateboard with me today. She committed suicide. We were really close in high school, but we started to fall off going into college. So only thing I would regret is just not keeping up that friendship, because I was really close with her in high school, but I kind of let my own ego and my own pride get ahead of me. And I was just like, well, you know, people fall off all the time. It doesn't really matter. But one thing that I really hold dear to my heart are the people that I started with, and are a lot of people that are from my high school that are still friends. I'm still friends with to this day, and she was one of them. And even though that we fell off, I felt that we were still close, and that I should have kept to that. Like, I should have worked on that more.
I just lost my sister, and I lost my dad 6 months prior. So I think so far those have been the hardest moments of my life, and that all occurred this year. Knowing that I have a purpose, I honestly feel like I have a purpose. I have been known to get compliments from friends who have said things like, when they're having a bad day, you know, I say things that just turns everything around for them. With my children, I know that I'm meant to lead my children somewhere. I know that I'm meant to have a very prosperous career and meant to do various things. And so because I feel like I have this great purpose, you know, and I haven't met that purpose yet, I keep pushing. My daughter's actually graduating this year. She's in the 12th grade. Yeah. So she now wants to attend Morgan because I'm here. She's very excited. To her, it's like, I can't believe my mom had me at such a young age, and she's doing these many things, and she looks up to me now. You know, she always has, but that's just inspired her a lot more. My son feels like I'm super mom anyway. So since my son feels like I'm super mom, this to him is just like, yeah, she's great. She does stuff like this, and she's gonna do more, and I'm gonna be great like that too.
The first time I met Morris, the door flew open, and I got this larger-than-life personality talking at the top of his lungs.
Hey, how you doing today?
Oh, man. Oh, I totally forgot. Hold on, let me get this for you. Oh. Just had a magnetic energy. So I thought, all right, we're definitely gonna be friends.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org.
America, let's do lunch.
My name is Keiswana Williams, and I'm here to end sexual harassment and sexual assault.
1 in 5 women experience sexual assault while in college.
Another 25% of women experience sexual harassment in the workplace.
The Me Too movement is a movement against sexual assault and sexual harassment that went viral in 2017.
75% of harassment victims experience retaliation just because they reported it. Me Too movement brought down nearly 201 powerful men. They all have been replaced by women. We here at Morgan State do not tolerate sexual assault or harassment. What are you going to do?
I guess like how the poem came to me is I woke up out of a dream and I was like, you know, this is a social justice issue around this time where no one really talks about it that much, especially within Baltimore. We don't talk about the possibilities of becoming a Sean Bell. It's even rarely talked about in schools. And so after I wrote the poem, 2 weeks later, unfortunately, Mike Brown died. And so that's when kind of Animal took off in a sad way. And I say in a sad way because I don't like adding to the list of when I say names like Walter Scott and Freddie Gray. It's kind of disappointing that police violence against Black community continues to occur. And so for me, every time I have to do the poem, every time I have to add onto that list, it hurts. Hunters will set up blinds in woods so the prey being hunted can get used to what seems foreign, but sometimes I wonder if they know they're getting used to their killer. Like, we are accustomed, as ammo is aimed at angels assimilating all around us. Cops patrol cities so the civilians feel safe within the community, although the ones protecting you look nothing like you. Sometimes I wonder if we know we're getting used to our killer. Born beautiful, blackness battles back bad behavior, but bloody background bottles black bodies because bullets blast brothers being broken by beasts bearing blue. And I know that's a lot of bees, but bear with me. See, if life is a game and we are its game, then who the hell are the hunters? I think it's the ones with guns and a disguise that pledges red, white, and blue, wanting to see us bleed red. Our shooter is white, and our hands go blue. I get it now. It's like African Americans are assaulted, altered as animals, Black boys bruised by brutality, and I know I said I would stop with the damn bees, but after B comes C, like I see coffins carrying colored carcasses before bodies are in them. I guess killing blacks are as easy as A, B, C. See, like, don't you get it? Dark fruit is nice, but police would rather see the juice spilling from your veins. It makes me realize that I don't want to be good at math. I don't want to be good at being another statistic, but what else can you expect when the city is an equation and we are the problem they are desperately trying to solve while their son's backs meet beds in the middle of the night, my brother's backs meet pavements. So don't ask me, how's it feel to paint the town red when I know souls that can tell you? You dream of Freddy or Jason chasing you in the middle of the night. I dream of running from cops just to stay alive. The only difference is that when I wake up, those dreams still follow me. Down dark streets, into gated communities, and even to my own front porch. You know, PETA loves to protect endangered animals. So when is someone going to protect endangered Black children? When will I be given my rights instead of having them read to me? Instead of tattooing pieces of paper to write poems about problems you know exist, we use ink to draw legislation. Because you can find peace in heart by making pieces of art. The word unity has been replaced by prison, so the community has no value, just common traits of jail. And no, I have never been there. Nor is Walter Scott or Tyrone West or Freddie Gray, names lost in translation because police don't understand English when we say innocent with hands raised towards the sky like we want God to take us before the bullet does. But it's bigger than that. Bigger than just a few names. We make profit off these prophecies like we did with Trayvon. When are we gonna be a part of the movement and not just the moment? Like when I leave my house, it's like I'm going to another cell block, constantly being watched. When did looking like a criminal and being a criminal become the exact same thing? Because if I stray too far from my boundaries, you'll find these eyes closed beneath the casket. I don't know when I will die, but take a picture. It'll last longer than the life expectancy of Black children growing up in the city. So when you hold the barrel of your lens at their face, like the crater you are aiming at can swallow bullets just like it swallows air. Every second sirens blare, just remind them to smile. Because if they gun me down, what picture would they use? Would they make me look like an animal or who I actually am?
some reason you think this is a game. This is not a game, Will. Look at you. Look at you. The only reason why you're not in jail is because Uncle Phil called in a favor.
Take your time. Go deep.
Too easy.
You throw this?
You stupid.
You are carrying a gun on the streets to protect yourself? I've done my best, Will. It's time for a change. You're going to Bel Air to live with your uncle and your auntie.
Bel Air, out of all places.
This is a second chance, Will. Don't waste it.
Will, I will not bail you out again. In this house, I'm not Uncle Phil. I'm the law. Have I made myself absolutely clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are no butlers to clean up your messes. You've got to be responsible for yourself.
So, Will, what brings you to Bel Air?
I got caught with a gun. How are we related again?
Shut up, Carlton.
He's from the streets of Philadelphia. Will needs discipline.
Just a little time. Just a little time and a little love. We are what he needs.
Why don't you go back to Philly? Born and raised, right?
You think I would ever want to be in this life?
You're not welcome, Will.
This is fake.
Wherever you're from,
This is fake. You ain't do anything to earn this. I never had nothing.
My life ain't a sitcom, I guess. I don't even feel like I belong here.
Just give it some time. Everything happens for a reason.
Yo, you must be from Philly.
Yeah. What's up, man? I'm Will.
Jazz.
Jazz?
Hey, so what part of town you staying in? Bel Air. They got you out there?
All right, Philly, let's see what you got. Will, welcome to Bel Air Academy.
How's everything going at Bel Air?
It's not too bad out here. I just made the team.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here. I need to take you shopping. Rodeo Drive. Oh my gosh.
I was summoned by God to be the greatest. They say my birth is a curse, I still made it. I stood out in the field when it was raining. 10 toes down in it. Youngin' came up strong with a will to live. Daddy never came home, mama in the pen. So his relative got him for the devil did. The streets ain't safe just to be playing in. It's like deja vu, I see it all the time. Yeah, it's like deja vu, I see it all the time.
Hey, Jazz.
Hey, Prince.
You even go here?
Nah.
So quick disclaimer, I'm not going to give you any big spoilers, just some highlights because I want you to get outside of your house, take in this atmosphere, visit this place. I recently took a trip to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, located in our nation's capital. Just by its existence, this building is radiating legacy, as it was built to mirror the appearance of a West African crown. In fact, it is the only national museum devoted exclusively to the documentation of African American life and its impact on the world. As soon as you enter, you'll be embraced by the beautiful concourse. You'll notice the wonderful gift shop on your left. They have an assortment of items: books, buttons, bags, cups, postcards. You better take something home. You better take something home. Before I go on, let me say this. Depending on the conditions of your visit, you may or may not be able to see the entire museum, as it contains over 36,000 artifacts. If you're going to go to this museum, know that you're committing to over a mile of walking. Know that you're committing to learning tons of new information. Know that because this museum is so new and popular that there will be crowds everywhere. Also know that it will be enlightening, engaging, and fun. After using the main elevator to go down, which gives you the sensation of going back in time, you'll notice that the history galleries are broken down into 3 huge floors. Starting from the bottom, C3 covers slavery and freedom, years 1400 to 1877. One of the standout visual displays on this level talks about how the concept of whiteness and blackness, as we know it, was created in the Americas in the late 1600s. And getting to actually see a real cotton gin in person was sobering to say the least. C2, the era of segregation, years 1876 through 1968. On this level, you'll see stuff like MLK's Congressional Gold Medal, and the dolls used during the Brown versus Board of Education case. Last but not least, A Changing America, years 1968 and beyond. Just the pride you feel when walking through these exhibits is overwhelming. It's simply amazing to see how much we've endured, invented, and reinvented. There was a point where I got to the C1 floor and they were playing Tupac's Keep Your Head Up. They were showing Funkmaster Flash, Public Enemy, Mae Jemison, Toni Morrison, The Million Man March, President Obama, and Oprah on various screens. I had to fight back tears. I was literally about to start boo-hooing because I remember reading Toni Morrison. I remember The Million Man March. I remember hearing Tupac's voice the first time. And I remember hearing Fight the Power for the first time. It was just like this all-in-one build-up, overwhelming feeling that came over me like a silent Holy Ghost. Upstairs on floor L2, you'll enter the Target Interactive Gallery, which includes this engaging car exhibit called Follow the Green Book. The Green Book was a text used by African American travelers to guide them to businesses that were welcoming to black people during the era of segregation. Floor L3 features a whole timeline of African American sports legends and pioneers. You'll see memorabilia like Joe Louis's gloves, Jackie Robinson's jersey, Michael Jordan's jersey. L4, the culture level, displays almost every aspect of black music, film, theater, and television. In the center of this level, there's a glorious wraparound screen that encapsulates everything that you will see in this gallery. There's stuff in this collection that I wouldn't even think about to include. They have Radio Raheem's boombox from the set of Do the Right Thing for Peter Parker's Sakes. The museum's restaurant called Sweet Home Cafe is beautiful. The menu is divided according to region, so depending on what you choose, your stomach will either visit the Creole Coast, the Agricultural South, the North States, or the Western Range. Look at the cakes, look at the pies, look how great the food looks. Obviously, I was in the mood for the South that day. I can't stress to you enough that what I've shown you in this video isn't even the tip of the iceberg. There's so much left to see, hear, and understand. This museum is so beautiful. Just to see our legacy written in stone a few blocks away from our nation's capital is vital and so symbolic. This hall serves as testament that African inventors, leaders, writers, freedom fighters, entertainers, athletes, soldiers, physicians, politicians, and nobility cannot and will not be deleted from the tapestry of time. Are you going to visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture? Did you like it? Let me know. Comment below.
Did I say there was an issue?
Because you keep looking at me. That's
And I have
issue.
2 eyes and I can look where I want.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
Hold up. Would this happen with Black knowledge? Let's take a look. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Why are so many of us quick to use skin color as a tool of shame and division? We are all different colors under the same human family.
You never know what could be learned from the next person if you base your actions on prejudice. Learn what's true. Find Black knowledge.
Hey girl, you're in my journalism class, right?
Yeah.
You got an A on the last test?
How did you do it? Because I am struggling.
Welcome to Diaspora in 30. I'm Tori Holmes.
And I'm John Wesby. Joining us today is Brother J.C. Falk, an active member in the Baltimore community who is working hard on many fronts to mend the racial divide in our country, one person at a time.
Next year marks the 400th anniversary of the first slave ships arriving here in the United States. Brother Falk is taking the time to put together a documentary that traces the history of this painful time for our people and is here to tell us all about his research. JC, it's great having you here with us.
Thank you. Appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much. Brother Falk, let's get into it. What inspired you to do this work?
I think part of it is what's happening in the culture right now. Like, I'm Black in America, and I've always known that I needed to do more. And there's a part of me that was afraid to step out as far as I've stepped out right now. And now I've just gotten to a point where I don't care about it anymore. I just care about jumping in and doing some work that needs to be done. And we're looking at, and you say we got a 400-year anniversary coming up for when our first African ancestors were brought to this country. What most people don't realize is that this year was 500 years since the transatlantic slave trade started. NBC didn't cover it, CNN didn't cover it, nobody covered it. And so for me, the documentary is my way of putting it out there when other media outlets aren't covering things that are important to our people. My documentary is about putting stuff out so we can see what's going on with our people.
You mentioned fear. When did that fear set into you? Were you aware, when were you conscious about your identity as a Black man in this country?
Yeah, it was more Black boy in this country. So I'm old enough to know the day that Martin Luther King was shot. I'm 57. And when the day that Martin Luther King was shot, I was almost 7 years old. And up to that point, like most Black families, at some point they will tell you that racism exists in the world. Most of us don't do it at 6 or 7 years old. We do it at 8, 9, 10 years old or something. We sit our kids down and give them the worst news they're gonna ever have in their lives. But it came to me a little earlier. I was living in DC, and Martin Luther King was shot. I lived in Northeast Washington, DC. When the fires started raging in the city, I could see them. I was outside with my brother. I was almost 7, he was almost 6. And we were out in the neighborhood when the city imploded. And we had no adults with us. And that day is when I realized that I could die for nothing other than the color of my skin. I was 6 years old and shocked into the reality of racism in America.
Wow, that's truly like amazing that you can take an experience like that and use it to motivate you to make a change in our society today.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is that yes, it was a motivator for me, but it took a long time for that motivation to actually kick in.
Yeah.
You know, like most of us get hit with that storm and then we hide, you know, or we try to find a way to function in the culture, to find a way to move through the culture without it having a huge impact on us. Most of us kind of know that beast exists, but we run away from that beast and don't confront the beast straight on. And you know, when Freddie Gray was killed, and a couple of other things happened in this culture, Freddie Gray specifically for me, it shifted me from a guy that was kind of playing up close to the edge to just jumping all the way over the edge after Freddie Gray was killed. I lived 5 minutes away from where he was initially harmed. And it did something to me. I can't even explain fully what it was, but I became, for about a year and a half, I was as angry as I've ever been in my life. And really, it was like FTP, you know, forget the, I'm watching my language right now, but it was like I didn't care about what I said to the police and what I did. I was up at the uprising after curfew 4 of the nights, and what I saw there made me ashamed to be an American citizen, made me ashamed. And so that, for me, it took a while for it to kick in, but now, you know, it's thoroughly a part of how I interact and move through the cultures. It's doing something to change how we experience this culture here. Yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit about the technical obstacles in shooting this documentary, and how did you fund it? And Do you have anything to give to the viewers who are planning on making a documentary themselves?
Yes. The beautiful thing about right now is that the equipment is less expensive than it's ever been. So I probably funded the entire project, all of the equipment, with about $15,000, maybe 20. And so went out and got a Sony A7S, shoots in 4K. It was like cool, you know, it was a couple $1,000. Got myself some lenses and went out, and literally I was not a camera person. Yeah, like if you saw some of my pictures from 2 years ago, it'd be like a 3-year-old did that, you know? And I decided to go and learn. Like I started off shooting in automatic with my camera, and about 3 or 4 months in, I decided I'm gonna go manual no matter what. And the first couple of shoots were destroyed. Like there was nothing. There was probably 5% of that footage that I can use. And I just kept shooting in manual until I got good at it. So by the time I get over to Ghana, I'm really good at shooting. Low light, all kinds of stuff. I just had to jump out. And so right now, we can do things in a monetarily, you know, some people, $15,000, $20,000 may sound like a lot of money. But a few years ago, it would cost me $100,000 to do the same thing that I'm doing right now. And so essentially what I did is I took my house. So I bought a house from the city 6 years ago, and I fixed it up, and I owned it free and clear. So I pulled money out of my house. I pulled some money out of my house to buy the equipment, pay off some old debts, and then here comes Wounded Goose. My production company came out of the pulling money out of my house to make this documentary.
Absolutely. Yeah. What viewers of the documentary, where do you begin? What can they expect to see? Where does the doc start, and what are you showcasing?
So there's a ton of stuff that I've been seeing. So since March, I've been out shooting since March. I think I've hit 7 plantations in America so far, and then I just got back from Ghana about 5 weeks ago. So you'll see plantations in America. Some of them still functional, active plantations. They don't have people harvesting stuff. They have machines harvesting stuff right now. But this one particular plantation, Whitney, is in Louisiana. This place, folks, is like I've never been to a plantation where I felt like I could do some healing while I was there. I always feel like I'm in the house of the enemy when I go onto a plantation. I tell people they're some of the most beautiful, ugly places that you ever want to see. And so I get to, I've been bouncing around to these plantations. You get there, and it's still, they're white folks controlling these plantations. And most of the white folks controlling the plantations are completely unconscious about the impact. So you and I, you know, the three of us walk in, and we walk into a place where our ancestors suffered so much. We walk in our feelings. We walk in just pissed off about it, and white folks there are like oblivious to the fact that we are feeling that way.
Right.
Whitney, I went there, and it was just amazing. Like they had a display. So there's a guy, Charles DeLon is his name, and Charles DeLon was a mulatto slave overseer. Okay, so the plantation owners loved this dude, and the people who were enslaved hated him. 1811, this dude jumped up with 500 black men in uniforms and marched on Louisiana. The plantation owners were like, no, not Charles. And then the people who were enslaved couldn't believe that this guy was doing that because he was so mean to them. And he marched on the place. And then after he marched, it's the largest slave insurrection in the history of America. Happened in Louisiana in 1811. They caught them. 95 of them they killed. 50 of them they decapitated their heads and put them on poles and put them on the levee system up and down the levee system in Louisiana to ward people off from doing the same thing. When he died, he said, give me liberty or give me death. This guy was truly, anything that we say is quote unquote American, in the spirit of the values that America is supposed to be, that it's not, he embodied all of that. At this plantation, they have a display of 50 heads. They had an artist come in, make the heads, and you walk in, you look and go, whoa. You know, like you could see all of the heads, different shapes, people's tongues hanging out, all kinds of stuff at this place. So they tell the story how it is. You go down to South Carolina and you look, and you'll think it was just a beautiful experience for people there. At this place, they show exactly what our people went through. So I'm doing that, showing people what it was like for people to be on the plantations. Went to Ghana, Cape Coast in Ghana, went there and shot in the dungeons there. Walked through the dungeons, sat in the dungeons, cried in the dungeons, so people can get a sense of what it was like for our people to go through being enslaved. So we talk about slavery or enslavement like we say, you know, he or she was a slave. Right. like they were a door, a doorknob, or a bottle or something.
Sure.
They were human beings. And I go to this place and I see what they went through in this place, and I feel what they go through in these places, and I record it so other people can get a sense of what our people went through on those ships. You know.
Your first visit to the slave castles. Describe to our audience what emotions went through your body.
Every possible emotion you can imagine, like everything I experienced in that trip. I experienced a full range of emotions. So I experienced being really angry. I experienced being proud of my people that they've gone through that and they survived it. And then for every slave castle that you go to, they'll have something that's either named like a doorway of no return or a door of no return or something like that. And they were right about my great-great-grandfather, that he wasn't coming back, but he's in me. I'm back. I would stand in those doorways and get my picture taken so I could remember they may have killed my great-great-grandfather and oppressed him for his entire life. They're still attempting to oppress me now, but I can get there and experience that and talk about it so people can see it in ways where I feel like my grandfather's spirit in me has gotten back there. Yeah, gotten back to
for that full circle.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction we have to make within, slavery, that we aren't slaves. It's the fact that we are captured Africans, we are victims, and we have an identity, and it seems that we're robbed of that identity when we name ourselves as slaves. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, when you got to the continent, from a technical aspect, how did you prepare yourself with gear and traveling abroad? And are there any tips you can give us for those aspiring to shoot abroad and carry gear?
So first, get tapped in on the ground. Get tapped into someone on the ground. The people that I got tapped into, they were just phenomenal. So I got on the ground. I had some things that I wanted to do, but they directed me, go to Kumasi, where you have the Ashanti palaces. Like, they flew me there so I can go and take a look at that and shoot there, and then go to Cape Coast. Like, got a driver drove me up. I went up twice so it's like you have to get first tethered to someone on the ground in Ghana or anywhere else. And if you get tethered to the right people, they can show you the place that you need to go. So that's the first piece. The equipment, I can shoot for a full-length production with a bag that's about this tall, this wide, and then the knapsack on my back. Like, it's like right now the equipment is so good that I can, other than lighting, but for all of the rest of the equipment, tripods and everything else that I need, sound equipment, everything, I have my sound, my Sennheisers and lavaliers, everything in my bag, and all of my lenses. There's 4 or 5 lenses in there. It's a heavy bag.
Right. Make no mistake about it.
But I can carry all of my stuff with me. I don't have to have anyone else with me. I can drag the one bag on wheels and carry the other bag on my back, put that one on the plane, put the other one in the gut. I'm ready to go.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned getting tethered in. You shared with me earlier about your network on the continent in Ghana, and you were able to meet some brothers there that you are now engaged with in a men's circle. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, these dudes are like, I didn't even know who they were until I got there. Like, I knew the guy that I was connected to, but then I get there and he's like, hey, let's go and hang out with my boys tonight. So we go and we're sitting 10 or 12 of us around a table, and it turns out that they're connected to everything in the country. Like, Kofi Annan died on my way over there.
Wow.
And they got me a media pass in 2 days to go to his funeral.
Wow.
It was phenomenal to be able to do that and to be able to be connected with them. I've been back 5 weeks, and I think I've talked to someone there every other day since that 5 weeks. I miss being in Ghana. I was only there for 18 days. I miss being there. Like this, what they have there that we don't have is, first, we are very advanced in terms of stuff.
Okay.
We got a lot of stuff here, right? And so we take a dollar and make it 15 cents here. We take a whole lot of money and do crappy stuff with it.
Right.
Over there, they take that 15 cents and make a dollar, like Tupac says. It's like a dollar out of 15 cents. They do that really, really well. And so, but what they have there that we don't have, we're like infants around our social development in this country. We send our mothers and fathers off to nursing homes when they're getting old. Over there, they don't even know what a nursing home is. They take care of their mothers and fathers when they get old. And so around the social development piece, I was out at a village one day, took my drone up, and we flew out. They have these canoes that they make that are like as long as this room, longer than this room, out of one piece of wood by hand.
Wow.
Okay, there were 30 of these canoes out on the water one morning. I fly the drone over top of them. They come back in to the shore. They go fishing in the morning, drop nets, and then they take the fish, they bring them back to the shore, and people just come and get it. They don't sell it. They just come and pick out the fish that they need and take it home. So it's that kind of thing. Like here, we'd be trying to sell that fish for everything that we can get it for, and they're feeding their own people. So we are totally, like for me, that's what I found there. And then also on top of it, the part around being black. You go there, everybody is black. They don't discriminate against you because you're black. Maybe some other stuff, you know, but not that. And it was like amazing being in a place where I can communicate with the people, and black wasn't a primary concern for me.
So how was that transition for you coming back into the United States after being in such a lovely place where you see people like you all around you and different political positions and different points in the community? How does that feel transitioning into a predominantly white area?
It's like walking around in the Matrix, y'all, since I've been home. You know, really, when I got onto the plane to fly back, and I was with a lot of Americans for the first time, I was like, you know, like you could feel the energy, like how energy is horrible in this country, and we walk around in it all the time, and we know some of it is horrible, but when you get out of it for a little while, and then you get dropped back in, it's horrible here. Like I'm looking over there right now. I'm looking for my 40 acres in Ghana. Like, and I think I found some property that I'm gonna pick up over there. I'm looking for my space there because this place, it doesn't feel like home to me. It never has. It's never felt like this is a place that I belong. It felt like, it's always felt like I wasn't supposed to be here. Yeah. You know, so it's very, very different to be back here.
Your research, were you able to discover root causes to why our energy and our, I guess, immaturity socially is the way that it is in this country, we as a people?
So Africans, they have culture, right? We have culture, we have music, we have dance, we have all kinds of things, right? If you look at Africa, a lot of the culture and the music and everything comes out of that, right? White people have culture too. If you look at them systemically, right? You would say music, you would say different stuff, like you would say medicine with us. We got all kinds of white culture. Most people think white people don't have culture. They actually do. They have a culture of violence. Of violence. That's the thing that I've been finding mostly with this. So that's what we are at their boot is at our throats because they were killing each other before they killed us. Right. They were slaughtering each other before they killed us. And so now what I'm finding out there is that we, when I look at what has happened to our peoples, because, you know, white culture has been a culture of violence for an extremely long, thousands of years. We've dealt with that. They dealt with it, and then we have to deal with it now that they are interacting with us.
Throughout the course of the 400 years of enslavement and the practice of our government to enslave Africans, were you able to I guess, understand or delve into relationships that our country had with other slave-holding nations? For instance, the Dutch giving over the U.S. Virgin Islands to the U.S. and the slavery still continuing. What were your findings there?
Here's the thing: it's a combination of stuff that like ticked me off, right? Okay, so part of it had to do with Europe and its devastation of African nations. The other part of it had to do with Africa and its devastation of other African nations. So there's a lot of tribal stuff that was going on in Africa, and because that tribal stuff was going on, they were selling their neighbors into enslavement for sugar and liquor, and you know, so that their sons and daughters wouldn't be sent into slavery. And I had a visceral reaction to that at a point in there, and then I remembered something larger, that they wouldn't have been doing it without the oppression of white people. They would not have been doing it if Europe hadn't come there. The Portuguese built the first slave castle in Ghana, in Elmina. They built it 500 years ago in Ghana. The castle that I went to was 350 years ago that they built that one. So 150 years they operated with that with Elmina, and then Cape Coast came in afterwards. Had they not come there with their cannons and with their weaponry, then our people wouldn't have, we've still been fighting each other. It's not like we just are just peaceful and loving all the time when we don't have white people intruding in our peacefulness. We don't always have peace amongst each other. But when you raise it up to the level, you add racism in that, you add the oppression of our people, you add the starvation of our people, you add the raping of our great-great-grandmothers, you add all of that stuff in. At Cape Coast, it's interesting, this place. You come in, took a drone and flew it backwards out of it so people can see what the place was like. At the bottom of this place, like a dungeon at the bottom, they had 1,200 to 1,500 people in these dungeons at the bottom at a time, okay? And suffering, like literally inside of spaces where that may have been the size of this room, they would have 150 people in that space in the dark, okay? And then so you had that space, you had all the suffering, you had all the noise, so when people came there, you had to smell it and hear it. People were literally right there where they were.
Right.
They were like
no facilities to
right there where they were,
clean yourself.
vomiting right there where they were, and then they would throw food in there and have them eat that food with that stuff all around them. So that's what they would, and they were there for months at a time, some of them, okay? So that's the condition that they were living in below this, in the dungeons of this place. Second stage, above ground, there's a church.
Wow.
Right above the people, there's a church sitting there. So the little white folks are coming in there with their kids going to church with the suffering going on underground. And they knew that it was going on underground. Church. Right above that is the governor's mansion. The governor, so it's the state. There's the people suffering at the bottom. This church between the people and the state, like as a buffer between the government and the people, the church. It looks the same today to me. It's a little, the functionality of it is different, right? It doesn't quite, because we're not in dungeons with chains on anymore, but it's the same.
Right.
It's the same thing that we've been going through. So when I went there, that's what I saw. I did not even see, I would not have known that before going there. That was the structure of these dungeons, I call them now. They call them castles. Castles. Cape Coast Castle. I call it Cape Coast Dungeon.
I find it so irritating how Europeans romanticize that era with the plantation tours. And I think about Paula Deen and her party that she threw and thought it would be a great idea for we'll have waiters dressed as slaves or as servants or what have you. It's a really sad deal that their mental state is as such. It's so disgusting. I believe we're getting ready to head to a break, Brother Falk, but Tori, did you have some advice for our audience?
We would like for the audience to follow us at MSUMPPD and make sure to tweet us with the hashtag BearTV. We will be answering your questions with JC Falk later on in the program.
Don't move, there's more Diaspora in 30 on the way.
Look at you looking like you're about to pop.
Girl, I am. I cannot wait for this baby to get here. All I do is stress, girl.
Whoa, girl, you are pregnant. You can't smoke.
I'm fine. Trust me. Don't trip.
No, you might be fine. The baby's not fine. Do you know what happens when you smoke while pregnant? Low birth weight, birth defects, premature labor. The baby could die. Do you want that for you or your baby?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so, girl. You got to get it together.
You're right. I want my baby to be healthy and here on time.
All right, cool. Look, just get serious about quitting. I'm around if you need me. My number's still the same.
Thanks for the lesson, sis.
No problem.
My name is Keiswana Williams, and I'm here to end sexual harassment and sexual assault.
1 in 5 women experience sexual assault while in college.
Another 25% of women experience sexual harassment in the workplace.
The Me Too movement is a movement against sexual assault and sexual harassment that went viral in 2017.
75% of harassment victims experience retaliation just because they reported it. Me Too movement brought down nearly 201 powerful men. They all have been replaced by women. We here at Morgan State do not tolerate sexual assault or harassment. What are you going to do?
To Diaspora in 30, we're continuing our conversation with Brother J.C. Falk, a documentarian and a founder of Circle of Voices, an organization that brings people of very different backgrounds together to face their fears and biases.
Over the break, we received a ton of questions from Twitter. We want to take the time to go through a couple of them and see what response Brother Falk can give us. Okay, so in this documentary, an approach to get rid of the divide between races or between Black people in general, is this your goal?
I think the primary goal is just to let people see what happened to our people so they can get a real good sense of what that is, and that people were, and they can be Black, white, or whoever they are. They want to understand the truth about what happened to our people. The purpose is to show the information unfiltered so we can see what it is. Like in Amistad, you see in Amistad, you have people on the ships, right? They're all dressed. When they actually traveled them, they had 350, 300 Black men on the decks of the ships for 4 to 6 months with no clothes on. So like, it's that kind of thing that I want to show, like, wait a minute, you know, we try to pretty it up a little bit. So the intent is to just show what our people went through and who put our people through that. That's the intent behind it, and for anybody who's interested in understanding the impact of that to watch it.
Sure.
Definitely.
Concerned Morgan student wants to know that, or she tweets, racism is learned and colorism is inevitable. So will this documentary teach the generations that come to refute systematic hate?
So I'm hoping that it does. Like, I hope that when people see what happens at the deep end of racism or the deep end of oppression, people suffer in the way that our people suffered. And that if for racism to exist in the world, that type of thing has to also exist in the world. And I'm hoping that people look at that and they're so like turned off by it that they will see that it's important to address these issues before they become what they have become in the world.
Absolutely. There's one more. Concerned Morgan student is really dropping some knowledge right here. Thank you for these questions. Do you believe that our culture is going unnoticed and disrespected, or are people blatantly ignoring Black people and their voice?
I think our culture's noticed, deeply noticed, but it's taken from us. I think the things the things that we produce in this culture at one point, and it wasn't very long ago, we couldn't apply for trademarks and copyrights. So white folks would apply for those things, and we could invent something, and they would own it after we invented it. They still do that right now, you know, on some levels. Like, we have not tapped into capitalizing on our own inventions and our own creativity. So I think they notice very much what our culture is. It's just they come in and capitalize and take away from us in ways that we have not learned how to keep it for ourselves. It goes out and it doesn't come back to us.
Definitely. I just wanted to touch on a point that you made. Prior to coming here to Morgan State University, the African diaspora wasn't talked about at all in my curriculum. It was general history. When you mentioned slavery, it was just a couple pictures. And I think this documentary is going to really go in depth and really pull out an emotional connection to slavery, and so that people can understand. Because right now, with the education we're receiving, it's not going into that deep of information. It's not covering all of the things that we need to know.
To piggyback on that point, Tori, Concerned Morgan student also writes, African culture is encrypted into American life, but goes underappreciated because of discrimination. What steps should we take to change that, if possible?
I think part of it is re-educating our people. Like, we have to, so an example about how we are not educated around what has happened in this country. So one of the plantations that I went to is Jamestown. So the 1619 story is right there, Jamestown. So I went to Jamestown, and over the last year or so, they've been starting to tell the truth. So 1607, they brought 500 Europeans in. No Africans, 500 Europeans in. So they basically got their trip paid for, and they would come here and they would work for 7 years, get their they'd get their 40 acres and a mule and then go on about their way. So they brought these first Europeans in. The ship drops them off, comes back 6 months later, and 440 of them are dead.
Wow.
Okay, 1607 now. 1612, they try the same thing again, and it happens again. Now check this out. What we don't get in our education is both of those settlements, especially the first one, the Europeans ate each other. Wow. They cannibalized each other.
Wow.
We don't get that. Can you imagine if Africans had done that? They would be calling them what they call them, savages, beasts, all this stuff. But white folks, they have like tamped that down, and we don't even get that story. Literally, they started telling the story in its fullness over the last couple of years at that place, right? Here's what else we don't get. 1607, there's a settlement. 1612, there's a settlement. Both of them fail. 1619, there's another settlement, and it succeeds. That's the year that they brought the Africans in, and they give them no credit for that. Absolutely no credit for helping them to survive that winter. They basically, the white folks came, they grew tobacco and they had no food. Africans came and said, oh no. You know, they made it so that they were able to survive. But if you read through the books, there's no mention that Africans made that possible for them. Yeah.
Wow. I think it was, we taught the Pilgrims and the Indians, right? The Native Americans. Wow.
Yes.
Brother Falk, Ja would like to know, is there any hope for change for America in the oppression of Africans here in America?
I think there's a little hope. Like for me, I have very little hope left around that, but I have a little bit. You know, and I think that if the oppression is going to stop, it's going to be the people who will stop the oppression. Our oppressors will never stop oppressing us unless we step up and stop them from oppressing us. So to the degree that our people step up, and when I say our people, I mean black people and any peace-loving people here in this nation. Once we begin to step up and start calling this stuff out, things will change. If we can go from slavery or being enslaved in this country to where we are right now, the people have the ability to move that. The problem right now is that the people aren't moving like the people used to move.
Right.
Wow, so through your documentary, how are you going to cover this large chunk of time with 400 years, and it's just so much to cover within a documentary? How are you planning on doing that?
You cover the major points, you know, so hit the plantation. So I basically do like it's not quite chronological, but it's close to travel people through the experience. So I get to the places where people were enslaved, show them that. And then I have an artist who's also here at Morgan, who drew a slave ship with 200 bodies, different shapes of bodies, naked on a ship, so people can see what it was like. So I want them to go through the process of it so that they can feel it and see it, all of it, all the way through to the plantations up to now.
Can you share with our audience where we can find you on social media, and how will we be able to see this film once it's completed?
Yeah, so social media, you can find me. My Twitter handle is call me JC Falk. There's also Circles of Voices on Facebook, and then my website is www.circlesofvoices.com.
Before we say goodbye, think about this. According to the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database, nearly 12.5 million enslaved Africans were brought to the New World. The victims were worked under brutal conditions, often lynched, and were tortured simply because of the color of their skin. After many centuries of this horrifying treatment, laws were finally passed to abolish slavery, and we became free from involuntary servitude. Here we are approaching 400 years later, and their descendants are still fighting for equality.
Almost 10 years after citizens of the United States elected its first president of African descent, the nation finds itself on the verge of an all-out race war. Hateful murders committed by white nationalists seem to be a common occurrence. We hope that the perspective offered here today will inspire each of you to find a way to defeat hate and move our people and this nation towards equality and harmony. For Diaspora in 30, I'm John Wesby.
And I'm Tori Holmes. Thank you for watching.